For more on Georgia, head to georgiapellegrini.com. The despicable treatment Governor Palin gets from the lamestream media is bad enough, but as Palin put it, geez, at least get the photo right. This past week, some hack named Marcus Hundro, writing for Digital Journal, wrote a snarky piece making fun of a potential Palin run for president. The whole article was garbage, but the best part, or worst part, is the picture used of Governor Palin and Senator John McCain didn't feature either one of them. Instead, it was a picture of the actors who portrayed Palin and McCain in a movie. Journalism, ladies and gentlemen, is apparently dead. To see any of the governor's posts in their entirety, visit Sarah Palin's Facebook page, follow her on Twitter at Sarah Palin USA, and visit sarahpalinchannel.com.
It's time for Commonwealth Common Sense with Susan Stimson and Kevin Scholla.
Hello, Susan. How are you?
Kevin, I'm doing very well. I hope you had a good week.
I did. Of course, Mitt Romney making the announcement over the weekend that, well, his big bid for the 2016 presidential campaign is not going to happen, and a lot of people think that may open the door a little more for the likes of Jeb Bush and, say, Chris Christie, other moderate rhinos who are running for president most likely, who would maybe get the support that Romney would have had.
Well, I don't blame Romney for taking a look at this. I think he is an honorable man, but I also think that it is time. It's time for him to understand that his time as far as running for president is come and gone. And I think that there seems to be a real race kind of heating up as far as with Jeb Bush, which you would call maybe a little bit more mainstream and kind of along that old guard type of thinking. And then you have some other interesting people in there, one in particular who I have had my eye on him for several years now. And what I've seen so far, I'm just very impressed with Scott Walker. And I think that a lot of people tend to be gravitating toward him because he has definitely done what he said he would do. He has stood very strongly for those principles of smaller government and liberty, but he also feels and seems very relatable, and that maybe, just maybe, this is someone that gets it.
Yeah, well, we certainly need someone, especially with a pro-amnesty candidate like Bush and others who will be up there. Christie, we mentioned, and some others that might be rearing their heads, if you will. I spoke about Scott Walker a couple of weeks ago on the Eddie Burke program on the segment that I do there in Alaska, and the thing that impresses me about Walker is the fact that he, along with Lieutenant Governor Clayfish, were able to win the recall and then win another general election in Wisconsin while at the same time being sandwiched by Barack Obama victories. So he's been able to win as a conservative, going out talking to the people in a state that is not necessarily voting Republican or conservative.
Well, he's won 3 elections, actually, in 4 years, because as soon as he was elected, then they did a recall on him. And one of the interesting aspects about Scott Walker, he was under enormous pressure, under enormous, ugly attacks, threats to his family. I did have a friend that was out there and witnessed it and was working with the campaign and hadn't seen anything like this really before, just the ugliness of the groups that were just coming together and just raining down horrible threats, horrible actions, horrible pressure. And this man did not crack under that pressure. And I think the aspect of that, one, we know that he has been tested, but 2, as a governor, as an executive, and having experienced that, he's also been battle-tested. And I think that it does position him very strongly coming into this presidential race. So in my opinion, I think he's one to watch. And certainly if you're looking at some of the polls, he seems to be surging in Iowa. Of course, this is so early, but you can tell that America is just hungry for something different.
Well, for me personally, I know we've touched on this a bit in the past. I'm hoping to get a candidate that actually excites us to vote for. as opposed to voting against the candidate that you don't like. I think that we saw that twice, certainly with Romney. I think people voted for Obama or they voted against Obama. I mean, you drive around right now, you don't see many Romney-Ryan stickers, but you do see Bush-Cheney ones, and you do see, stickers from Kerry and other candidates that people really wanted to win, as opposed to, well, I'll vote for the other guy because the guy he's running against is horrible. So I think that's another key here for the Republicans. I mean, I know a former governor in Alaska that would be a great candidate, but we don't know who's going to run. That's for sure. But I do think the GOP needs a candidate that people want to rally behind, because it's one thing to hold your nose and vote for them. It's another thing to actually go out there and campaign and entice others to vote for someone.
Exactly. And I think that there's just a lot of elements about Mr. Scott Walker that many of us are very interested in, and certainly he is to be admired for his executive strength as governor. And in my opinion, from what I have seen so far, I think that he represents, what so many of us Republicans are hoping, just someone that campaigned strongly on our Republican principles. And once he was in office, he really just moved the ball forward on those principles. So I think he's the one to watch.
All right, Susan Stimson, thanks so much.
Thank you, Kevin.
Susan Stimson in Virginia. More Commonwealth Common Sense next week. Now our weekly commentary, Steel Resolve. Here's Sarah Steelman.
Thanks, Kevin. It's true that no one ever gets credit for preventing something bad or worse from happening, because usually no one ever knows. The reverse can be true as well, that some things could have turned out better if different actions had been taken. This week, President Obama has been boasting about his so-called middle-class economics and how great the economy is recovering. The Investor's Business Daily made a comparison to the Reagan recovery and the Obama recovery. Here's what they found. Obama increased spending, raised taxes, complicated the tax system, and expanded regulations as well as entitlement programs. Reagan cut taxes, simplified the tax code, kept spending under control, and didn't expand government programs to solve problems. In the first 5 years of the Reagan recovery, the economy grew 4.6% a year on average. Under Obama, it's been 2.2%. Under Reagan, employment increased by 18%. Under Obama, it's grown by 7.2%. In the past 5 years, real annual GDP growth hasn't once reached 3%, which is the average growth rate, including recessions from 1945 through 2009. If you strip out years when the economy contracted, the average growth rate is more than 4%. Oh well, it could have been so much better, and the middle class would have been much better off than they are today. The data is clear. Reaganomics worked. Obama's so-called middle-class economics have been a disaster. This is Sarah Steelman for Mama Grizzly Radio.
Tune in again next week for another segment of Steel Resolve right here on the Palin Update. The Palin Update, including Commonwealth Common Sense and Steel Resolve, is on demand and available for download. So just head to mamagrizzlyradio.com, pick the show you want to hear, and you can listen anywhere, anytime. Well, that'll just about do it for this edition of the Palin Update on Mama Grizzly Radio. Visit mamagrizzlyradio.com for continuing coverage of Governor Palin. Also, like Mama Grizzly Radio on Facebook and follow along on Twitter at Mama Grizz Radio, at Kevin Scholla, at Susan B. Stimson, at Sarah_Steelman, and at 3DSTS. And I'm doing some writing for Breitbart News. Go to Breitbart.com and search Kevin Scholla. I'm also doing a weekly segment on Eddie Burke's radio program in Alaska. It's called Bear Facts and Grizzly Details with Kevin Scholla. You can hear it now on Mondays at 9:30 a.m. Alaska time, 1:30 p.m. Eastern. Tune into Hot Talk, KOAN. Visit 1080KOAN.com. That's 1080KOAN.com. I want to thank Sarah Steelman, Susan Stimson, and everyone here at Mama Grizzly Radio. Thanks to Georgia Pellegrini, and thank you for listening today. A special thanks to our sponsor, 3D Security and Training Academy. Visit 3dsta.com. Please be sure to join us again next time for another edition of the Palin Update right here on Mama Grizzly Radio. I'm Kevin Scholla. Have a pleasant day.